Hello, everyone. My name's Ryan. I work at New Creation Counseling Center in Tip City, Ohio, and today I am joined by Rachel Tucker. Rachel is the founder of Women at the Well Ministries, and Women at the Well is presenting a workshop for New Creation on Friday, February 23rd. It's at Ginghamsburg Church at their main campus. It starts at 1 o'clock. It's free. It's open to the public. And it is called Holy Yoga. And that is something that Women at the Well do is Holy Yoga. You've referred to it as trauma-sensitive yoga.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to start with that. And my question is, Holy Yoga, what is Holy Yoga?
Well, so Holy Yoga is a separate 501c3 ministry that uses the modality of yoga to share Jesus with people. And what we're calling our workshop actually is Peace Project Masterclass.
Mm-hmm. Peace Project Masterclass.
Peace Project Masterclass.
Okay.
And Holy Yoga is just a modality that we use in our ministry of helping people's brains heal from trauma.
Yeah.
It's an awesome modality to do that. And that's all going to be discussed in the workshop and the tools and things that we teach. But I'd really like to just share how we got here, or I got here. I think stories are really powerful, and just being transparent and from a place of victory is an awesome tool. So through my life, just from a very young age, from starting fatherlessness, which led me into all kinds of sex, drugs, and rock and roll, at a young age, and experiencing trauma from choices, and then being married to my now amazing husband, but before he was very abusive, physically and mentally, which would cause trauma, and there's a lot of people that deal with that, or grew up with parents of that, or alcoholic parents. And then my brother's suicide, which really took me for a loop, and I didn't realize that I actually had PTSD from that. Even though I wasn't there, I didn't see it. It was through my husband's great idea to take me to a shooting range, and the first gunshot I heard, the vision of my brother using a shotgun came into my head, and that was like, whoa, okay, something needs to happen. So I found myself in a yoga studio, which is just a secular yoga studio, and I found tremendous healing on the mat. Not only just being really connected to the Holy Spirit on my mat, I filled journals and just really hearing from the Father every time. And then I wrote a book about it. It was called How Jesus in Yoga Changed My Life. And that's henceforth, Holy Yoga came into my life just through me sharing with somebody who knew somebody. And that's how it came into my life. And I have been free from all that bondage and things that I carry around. And
so the PTSD and how that was impacting you, gone.
Yeah. So I actually had an illness for, so my brother committed suicide in 2013. And so 2014, 2015, 2016, I had ulcerative colitis hit me the same time every year. And a lot of autoimmunes from my research stem from trauma, or like incest, like children who were molested by family members, things like that. They develop these autoimmune disease. And mine was ulcerative colitis in my gut, and that's one thing we're going to talk about is the vagus nerve and where we feel our stress, and a lot of time it's in the gut.
Well, and when you're ready, I'd like to get into that kind of physiologically, why yoga and how it impacts us psychologically, and obviously like with these illnesses and things as well helps with that. Yes.
So basically, what happens when trauma happens, and there's so many different criterion, and that we're going to talk about. So many different criterion. So whether you are a first responder, and actually first responders don't realize it, but they have what we call compassion fatigue, which is a secondary PTSD, and they just think it's normal to go around feeling like they're feeling, this is the way I'm supposed to feel. But what happens is we are a tripartite, meaning mind, body, spirit, all connected in one. And when we're all connected, healing and wholeness are basically the same word. So when we're whole, we're healed. But when we're disconnected, our mind from our body and our spirit, this is when we have disease or fight or flight, and we're in anxiety or we're in depression. And so what yoga, the modality, does, and I choose Holy Yoga because I believe Jesus is the healer of all, and people experience Jesus on their yoga mat, and if they don't even know who Jesus is, they're meeting Jesus on their yoga mat, because we're focused and centered on Jesus. And so that just happens. Your intention, intention transforms.
Mm-hmm.
So when that happens, so you are focused on your breath. So our breath is our anchor. And this is another reason why we use mindfulness meditation, because the breath is the anchor. And when we anchor on the breath, that means we're anchored in the present. And just we've been talking for what, 2 or 3 minutes? Mm-hmm. How many times has your mind wandered?
I'm not even paying attention to that. No, I'm kidding. No, absolutely.
Seriously.
And that's something that I struggle with in a listening profession.
Yes.
Is staying focused right on the moment. Even if it's just thinking about what I got to say next,
right.
or what kind of questions I need to ask.
Mm-hmm.
That's still a little different from I am like completely in tune with what's right in front of me.
Correct.
Yeah.
So, with that being said, so whether any kind of trauma that's happened, you have that disconnection. And the problem with anxiety is people are living from striving for something in the future, or they are something that's happened in the past. But when we're in the present moment, the only thing that resides right now is love. Like, there's nothing else but love right here. You're not thinking about the stuff that's happened or fearful about things that are going to happen. And so the mindfulness presentation is training our brain, because we're always coming back to our breath, Mm-hmm. 21 days of that, your brain has actually restructured to be in the present moment. And so what you practice grows. So whether you're practice mindfulness or you're practicing self-condemnation or judgment,
mm-hmm.
The mindfulness practice, and then yoga, holy yoga, it's a moving meditation, because really the breath is the practice. We're focused so much on the breath. The breath moves us through the practice. The breath is what just gets us back to the present moment, or gets us out of our present reality of, we're holding this pose and it's really hard. And what we say in yoga is once you want to leave the pose is actually when it begins. And so we tap into our breath, and it kind of gets us through that, and on the other side where glory is. So the yoga actually, and even being guided, and I think that's the best way to do it. I even watch like guided ones, because I'm out of it. My mind is focused on the instructor.
Yeah.
And I've seen miracles on the mats at our events and things that we do. A lady who had a stroke and hadn't been able to move that side of her body, but during our holy yoga practice, she I have just moved. I haven't been able to move forever, because she wasn't focused on that.
So I guess a part of this that I'm wondering about is how not transformed is not the right word, but almost like malformed we get as a result of chronic fear and the trauma stuff. And you're teaching people to kind of, I don't know, exist or be in a more relaxed state, that reconnected state.
Yes.
So, as a part of that, maybe not, I don't know about this woman you're talking about, but as you learn to be able to relax, to be in the moment, that, it undoes the body impact of the trauma. Does that make sense? What I'm asking?
And so that's why we call it a bottom-up approach. Because, in our brain, we have these, like the limbic system and the neocortex. So the limbic system is our feeling mind. And so when we tap into that, we're not skeptic on, this isn't going to work, and you're getting out of your own way. And so basically, we're just in that moment. Now they're going to go in their life, and they're going to go back to their current reality.
Right.
Unless they keep doing this practice. But in that moment on the yoga mat, they're in the present moment, because I'm keeping them in the present moment. So
then something you've said to me previously that I really like is you're turning the learning centers back on. So like in this moment where you're, at least they're in this state where they're relaxed, there's a connection going on. In that moment, they're more open to truth, or they're able to learn in that moment, and you take advantage of that.
Yes. Usually, a lot of people, trauma survivors, and even soldiers that were over in war and having to do things like kill children who had bombs dropped to them and things like that. They carry this tremendous shame. And shame is what turns the learning centers off. Like there's MRIs, if you look, we've seen MRIs, what shame on the brain looks like. And the shame is actually what turns the learning centers off and shuttles them into fight or flight. And so there's so many, and it's sad to say that the VA doesn't know what to do with like the soldiers. They have no idea what to do with them. They want to recommend medication, and it's to their, they just don't know, But and even if you've been sexually abused as a child, you feel shame. You're like, oh, you know, you're the one that's carrying the guilt and shame of that. And I've seen this personally in even in our last retreat that we just had in January. Every single, and I didn't even know it, but you know, where your focus goes, that's where the, you know,
Sure.
Every single woman that showed up there as the weekend progressed, we realized they had all been molested as a child.
Yeah.
And they've just been stuck. You know, they've just been stuck. They have this love for Jesus, but they're just living this is my life, mediocre.
Yeah.
You know, they don't have peace and joy. You know, they're not experienced what it is to be a daughter of the King, to walk into your abundance and to have everything that God has for you. But once they realize that, oh, it's not me, there's actually something going on in my brain.
So then is there something where through the mindfulness and the yoga practice that they're more receptive to the truth versus kind of that shame really blocking their ability to think of themselves or see themselves in a different way?
Yeah.
Is that?
Yes. So the practice of it, so the continual practice of it, so what we practice grows. It will turn the learning centers back on. Then they have the ability to learn.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're talking to them, they're learning. And sometimes when they're going and getting talk therapy, I'm not necessarily sure if it's sinking into them.
They're able to receive it. Yeah.
Yes. That's why I think this is such a perfect thing here, because it's people don't know what they don't know. And once you realize that, hey, it's not your fault. We can fix this. God made our brains plastic. You know, we can fix this.
Yeah. I like that you talk about shame because that's something I believe more and more every day that is probably the main thing that we deal with as humans is shame. You know, and I believe it's the thing that God heals us from in terms of, I mean, looking at Adam and Eve and their reaction to being aware, you know, learning this shame that I'm inadequate, that there's something about me that is unacceptable, and I have to hide. You know, that's essentially what shame makes you do. And so, and I find that interesting that is the actual real impact of trauma is the shame that it brings into people's lives.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And so what we've done is the workshops are. So thank you for inviting me, because I'm like, yeah, we should do these. We should do these a lot. And so in doing those, you know, I know there's a lot of people that come to you that don't have the resources to like maybe come to our retreats. We do fundraisers and stuff like that for people for scholarships, but we created, not along with the workshops, but we created what I call Living Water TV. And it's a subscription base. It's $16.99 a month. And they're going to be getting guided mindfulness meditations and guided holy yoga practices and other brain work that we're going to teach them to gather, like what 2 Corinthians 10:5 says is take every thought captive and submit it to Christ. And that's really what mindfulness meditation is. This is, we're not like saying don't think. We're thinking, okay, just don't be mad at it anymore. Just let it watch, you know, like it's on a movie string, go on by, and then come back to your breath. And then here comes another one. Oh, okay, cool. And then you come back to your breath. And then the more you do that, and the more you do that, and then the more your brain conforms back to, you know, the way it's supposed to be, to have peace, because that's what Jesus left us. He said, I leave you peace. And the enemy is into theft, you know, so like trying to rob and steal. And he does it at a really young age. And, you know, it's really sad. And I had one woman there who, her 3-year-old daughter was raped in daycare by a 15-year-old kid who had been in and out of foster homes. And she had this anger, and, you know, she's the one with the trauma. The kid probably won't affect the child till she gets older, you know, because she's already forgot, but her body's never going to forget. But just in teaching her in the weekend, she left there with a compassion towards the 15-year-old, realizing, okay, this 15-year-old he's had something happen to him, and it's just how that goes. So many different, I mean, so much out there, so much work to be done.
And I think aside from, you know, I like that you talk about shame, and I guess that's the other thing I want to say is that these types of experiences, the explicit kind of trauma that's happened to people, you referenced, other people have talked about like developmental trauma that wasn't necessarily involving you specifically, but because of the impact it had on you. You know, too many people, it's too common to go through these kinds of experiences, what Charles was calling being wounded, you know, by life. Basically, it is common, it happens. I'm not trying to say everyone has a problem, but I mean, that's what I've learned being a counselor. It's like, man, there is so much that you don't realize and appreciate that people are going through, that they've lived through, and how they might be all kind of wound up and not connected, not centered, not able to receive truth, believing lies. And you know, and I think for me, watching people feed those lies and support them and reinforce them through their kind of current lifestyle day in and day out, it's just a real insidious thing. So I'm really glad, I'm really excited that you kind of do what you do. We could literally go on just forever talking about this. I got another question that I will not ask you, but we'll stop it there for time's sake. But this is Rachel Tucker, founder, Women at the Well. Just a reminder, New Creation has a workshop Friday, February 23rd, 1 o'clock to 4. It's at Ginsburg Church at their main campus, rooms 202 to 204. It's free, open to everyone. If you want, you can register through our website, www.newcreationcounselingcenter.org. If you just show up on that day, you are welcome. We'll get you registered, and you'll get to listen to Rachel and her people talk and learn some mindfulness skills and do some basic yoga moves, I know. So thank you everyone for watching, and we will see you guys. Take care.
Thank you.